So yesterday, we kind of ended off with the Mike Evans signing to the 49ers was really the big signing that we ended off on. So I have reported on every free agency signing up until Mike Evans to the 49ers. And then after this, now it's time to go through and look at this ESPN article that comes up with free agency and trade market updates. It is live. So we get all the most recent updates on free agency. And I'd love to sit down and talk to you guys about the free agency moves that have happened post Mike Evans signing to the Niners. Kelce returning to the Chiefs. I saw that this was a one-year deal worth $12 million guaranteed upwards. Can make about $15 million. Clearly, the Chiefs are going all in on next year. They believe they can get right back to the playoffs very, very quickly. Mahomes is what's the word? Mahomes is expecting, I guess you could say, to be back week one, rehabbing from his injury. So Kelce returning, obviously they signed Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. They did trade away a lot of their secondary, though. Both of their starting cornerbacks went to the LA Rams. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what they do about their secondary, specifically if that's a big target point in the draft with their now 2 first-round picks. That would not surprise me at all, but the Chiefs are definitely going to be having to figure out that secondary if they want to make another playoff push. Shout out to Khalif Raymond heading to the Chicago Bears on a one-year, $5.1 million deal. After 5 seasons in Detroit, he heads to Chicago. Khalif Raymond was one of the guys that clearly Ben... Oh my God, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his last name? Ben Johnson. Duh. That Ben Johnson really liked. He's a special teams guy. So expect Khalif Raymond to be returning kicks next year for the Chicago Bears. But there you go. Small one. Buffalo Bills found a way to keep tight end Dawson Knox on the 2026 roster amidst a difficult cap situation by signing him to a new 3-year contract. So even though they have Dalton Kincaid, shout out to Dawson Knox for continuing to have a job with the Buffalo Bills, signing a 3-year deal that keeps him with the Bills through 2028. Vikings retain their long snapper. Congrats. The entirety of their special teams is sticking around. Carolina brings back a couple guys. This was a good one. Greg Newsome was traded last year. 1-for-1 swap with the Cleveland Browns. I forget who exactly he was traded for. But there you go. Giants adding some secondary help. They are adding Greg Newsome II on a 1-year deal worth up to $10 million. If that's all it took, I love this addition for the Giants. They have one of the worst secondaries in all football. They needed to make some moves with their top cornerback going to Tennessee in free agency. So it didn't surprise me to see the Giants wanting to add a cornerback. I like this, a 1-year prove-it deal. You can see how he is and possibly re-sign him in a year. If not, you can just let him walk, and it was a 1-year rental. So I like deals like that, especially for teams like the Giants that are still in that retooling, rebuilding phase. Good pickup there for the Giants. Bills are keeping Tyler Bass. That's cool. Packers are adding Benjamin St. Juste. I believe that is a cornerback. 2-year, $10 million deal. He's 28. He was the first outside free agent the Packers acquired since in free agency. So there you go. Good job for the Packers. Oh, yeah. Saw this very late last night. Very versatile but injury-plagued Elijah Vera Tucker, who was drafted and developed by the New York Jets, is now making his way with a 3-year deal to the New England Patriots. Between tackles, Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, and in the latter moves in the center with Garrett Bradbury. Elijah Vera Tucker, solid left guard, but as they said, very injury-plagued. And the Patriots had a couple injuries late in the season on their offensive line, so don't know if I love that necessarily. But they definitely needed some offensive line depth, and I think the versatility is really what they were looking for, is that they want that guy that can play guard or tackle in specific situations, and there you go. They got their guy. Tyquan Thornton is returning to the Chiefs. This one basically told me that Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to be returning. I thought they were going to have to pick between the two of them, and they're clearly going with Tyquan Thornton, bolstering their wide receiver room once again alongside Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, who's finally going to play the first 6 weeks of the season, Xavier Worthy, who hopefully won't bang his shoulder on Travis Kelce on a drag route in the first play of the season. Tyquan Thornton was honestly pretty solid for the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of a depth threat overall. I was very impressed with what I saw out of him. but he's got to be a little bit more consistent in that wide receiver 3 range. But 2-year deal, $11 million, which tells me that they liked him, tells me Mahomes want him there. So good for Tyquan Thornton finally finding a home, a secure home in Kansas City. They also signed Alohi Gilman. He was on the Baltimore Ravens defense after being acquired from the Chargers. He is a safety. They needed some secondary help. Obviously, we just talked about the fact that they got rid of all of their secondary members, the Chiefs, so them to bring in a safety. Good pickup, 3-year deal. Seems like they wanted him here. 3 years, only $5 million guaranteed per year. So that's a steal for a safety that you're going to sign in free agency. Guys, after the Steelers lost Kenneth Gainwell, I thought there was no hope. I thought we were just going to run it out with Jaylen Warren, and you guys were saying Caleb Johnson's name. I was like, oh my God, what's going to end up happening? And then yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers came to an agreement with former Panthers and Cowboys running back. 2-year, $12.25 million deal with Rico Dowdle, baby. I love it. I love this signing because it's such a mix of things. First and foremost, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy drafted Rico Dowdle, developed him into an 1,000-yard rusher. He obviously got that starting gig his last 2 seasons in Dallas. Once they officially moved on from Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard and yada yada, they brought in Rico Dowdle. He became an 1,000-yard strong rusher in Dallas. He went over to Carolina, was having a pretty mediocre season until Chuba Hubbard went down with that injury, had back-to-back 230-plus yard scrimmage games. He was running like a madman out there. I mean, he was putting his shoulders down. He was talking angry, running angry, making plays for Carolina. A big reason why Carolina ended up making the playoffs last year was because they went on a win streak at the same time the Falcons were losing all those games. And a big part of that was because of Rico Dowdle. The way that I viewed Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard last year, I view Rico Dowdle and Jaylen Warren as just a slight upgrade from that. I think Jaylen Warren is such a great rusher. He's such a steady, stable guy. You know what you're getting out of him. He will all of a sudden, out of nowhere, surprise you a couple times with these big rushes, and his contact balance is one of the best in the NFL. But you guys know the Steelers love their 2 backs. They love their 2 running back sets. They love having 2 guys back there. We saw it in Kenneth Gainwell last year. He constantly was coming in on third downs to be that receiving back. Well, Mike McCarthy has never really been a big, that's not necessarily a check down guy. I as much as, there's going to be screen passes ran for Jaylen Warren and stuff, I've always viewed running backs under Mike McCarthy as, full steam ahead power backs. That's kind of what's always worked in Mike McCarthy offenses. If you go back to the Packers with guys like Eddie Lacy, right? They drafted him. They developed him to be that hard-nosed, right-down-the-middle runner. Thinking back to Dallas with, like, Ezekiel Elliott. He was so explosive with his first couple of steps, but later in his time in Dallas, he really turned into a power runner. And I just think the duo between a Jaylen Warren as a smooth receiving back that can do it all, he can catch passes, he can block, has great contact balance, and now Rico Dowdle, who's just there to bully the opponents, keep each other fresh. I mean, all I've said, the Steelers' running offense, now mind you, it was Arthur Smith, so it's probably likely going to change a lot heading into next year. But the Steelers' rushing offense over the past couple of years had 9 guys outside of the quarterback that were blocking. And it always allowed for there to be one-on-one matchups between the running back and one guy that wasn't blocked on the defense. It was just what always happened. If you go back and watch the Detroit Lions game against the Steelers, the 2 touchdown that Jaylen Warren absolutely broke were one-on-one matchups where the Steelers had everyone in their front 7 blocked, and the safety would have to run all the way up and make a play on the running back. Well, the Steelers players knew the scheme and knew the fact that the running backs had to make those one-on-one moves. That's why Jaylen Warren broke those 2 runs on Detroit, because he beat the first guy and everyone else was blocked. Rico Dowdle did a fantastic job of exactly that, breaking one tackle or making one guy miss and then finding the explosive play after that. That was something I thought he did a fantastic job of in Carolina last year. I was so disappointed to see his touches go down as much as they did. In the later half of the season, they really started using Chuba Hubbard a lot again in the receiving work, in the come playoff time. And overall, I'm just so happy with this signing. It's very different philosophy for offense than what we had with Kenneth Gainwell last year. But in terms of the Mike McCarthy offense and what we're trying to build, we just traded for Michael Pittman, a 6'4" wide receiver. We have DK Metcalf, a 6'4" wide receiver. Clearly, we wanted strong blocking wide receivers. We're trying to bring back Darnell Washington. We made it a point to keep Pratt Freiermuth. We're making it a point to keep our offensive line relatively intact. Shout out to Isaac Somalio for leaving to go to Arizona. We're going to talk about that in a second. But as for the Rico Dowdle pickup, I just feel like this is going to be one that we're going to look back next year when the Steelers have 6 wins in week 9 or something like that, and we're pushing for the playoffs. It's going to be because our running offense is so efficient and so dominant up front. And if we can just bring in Aaron Rodgers in, bring a Kyler Murray in, and tell them to game manage, not make a lot of turnovers, even if it's Will Howard, I feel really, really good about this signing. The Steelers are going to be so run heavy next year. Even with DK, even with Pittman, we brought in these big wide receivers to block, to be secure catches over the middle. And man, I couldn't be happier about Rico Dowdle coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't lie, I might order a jersey. I might get myself a 5 Rico Dowdle jersey just because I love him so much. I loved him so much last year. He was my fantasy guy last year. I traded for him in the middle of fantasy. And now, boom, Rico Dowdle is a member of my Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys are re-signing Sam Williams. Not a lot to say there. 1-year, $3 million deal. But there is some stuff to talk about with the Cowboys. Don't worry, foul artists. We'll get to Mike Evans in a second here. I want to get to the Cowboys. I want to go down and try and find the Cowboys and talk a little bit about what they did yesterday. Because this trade right here. Young Rico goes hard. Exactly, foul artist. I might just get hit with no Rico. This was a trade that is horrendous. And I don't think a lot of people in the general media saw it as bad as it was. But I want to let you guys know something about this trade. Rashawn Gary next season has a higher cap hit for the Dallas Cowboys than Micah Parsons does for the Green Bay Packers. Which means technically next season, Rashawn Gary is more valuable in terms of financials to the Packers, or to the Cowboys, than Micah Parsons is to the Packers. Rashawn Gary was about to get released. There was all these rumors that the Packers didn't even want him. His cap hit was too high. $19.5 million in cash. He's owed $22.5 million in non-guaranteed money in 2027. That's more than Khalil Mack just re-signed for. I'd much rather pay Boye Mafe. I agree with that. This was a guy that was going to get released by the Green Bay Packers, and they were going to take on all this dead money. And Jerry Jones called them up and said, I'll throw you a 4th-round pick for that guy. I mean, that is some of the worst. The fact that they're willing to trade a 4th-round pick for Rashawn Gary, but not trade that extra 1st-round pick to go get Max Crosby, but yet they trade Micah away. I just don't understand at all how you can believe in this Cowboys front office to build a successful defense. I don't see it. Rashawn Gary's not the worst player ever. And I agree, I'm kind of harping on him a lot, right? He's never had a season over 10 sacks. He is very durable, but he's not really a big tackle guy. He didn't have a sack apparently in the last 7 games of the season last year. It's just one of those moves that you look at the Cowboys and you're like, you want them to make the move to believe. Just to get the locker room believing in a defensive player. Changing the full round culture throughout with a Max Crosby, with a Micah Parsons, right? You want those kind of culture-setting guys on the defensive side of the ball. And yet they keep making these minor fill-ins that aren't doing anything. That is not, I promise you, Rashawn Gary is not going to make the Dallas Cowboys into a playoff team. I don't see it. And unless that maybe it's something that Dallas sees and they really wanted to get Rashawn Gary and they believed that 4th-round pick was worth them taking on the contract and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, clearly they did it because they made the trade. But at the same time, I just look at stuff like that. I just don't I don't see it with the Cowboys, man. It makes me think that a team like the Giants that are making all these really exciting moves, like bringing in Isaiah Likely, fixing up their defense, getting a little more offensive line help, just makes me believe more in those other teams in the division. Like, for example, if Jeremiah Love goes to Washington, tell me why Washington can't be better than Dallas next year if Jaden stays healthy. I just don't see the direction that they're going in. I thought they made a great hire with their defensive coordinator, bringing him in from the Philadelphia Eagles. I overall thought the Cowboys were making like okay moves. The problem is it just feels like they're going in this big circle looping, and they're somehow getting worse from it. They just keep getting worse. They had statistically the worst defense in like 40 years last year, and you're telling me your solution to that is Rashawn Gary for a player that the team that he's on was going to release him, and you trade a 4th round pick for him. It's like I could go on and on. I could talk about this trade right here. DJ Moore going to the Buffalo Bills for a 2nd round pick. DJ Moore was not as productive in the past 2 seasons as Michael Pittman of the Colts was, and Michael Pittman was traded for a 6th to 7th round swap. It's like, I don't understand what these front offices are seeing where you see a guy like DJ Moore and you feel like you have to give a 2nd round pick to pay him $20 million a year when a guy like Michael Pittman's available for just a late round swap and the same price point. What do these general managers see that make them really, really want these guys when there's guys in the draft? I feel like you could develop a guy in the draft to have, 682 yards, 50 catches, and 6 touchdowns. That shouldn't be that hard. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't see how an NFL general manager cannot find a guy in the second. You're the Buffalo Bills. You can't find someone in the 2nd round of your draft and believe that they can go 50 for 682 and 6 touchdowns. I mean, we've seen 4th round rookies have better seasons than this, and yet they don't trust their development at all. They believe they're in such win now positions that they have to trade these high-end draft picks to go get mediocre players when a guy like Michael Pittman, all he requires is a 6th to 7th round swap for the same price point. It just really confuses me. A lot of these moves that these free agents have done have confused me. I don't understand. I'd love to be in the building and be able to sit there and talk to them about it and everything, but I'm just so confused. Wow, what a great signing for Detroit. We literally just hit a refresh. This was 3 minutes ago. The Lions are signing running back Isaiah Pacheco. Wow. I love this for the Detroit Lions. They basically just replaced David Montgomery with a younger, worse-ish David Montgomery. He's such a strong runner. He's known for the way he power runs through. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a smart player. I love this. I think that this is, this literally just happened 3 minutes ago, so live reacting to Isaiah Pacheco to the Lions. I mean, if you had to replace David Montgomery for Montgomery going over to Houston, I don't know if you could have found a better guy in free agency than Isaiah Pacheco to do that. Maybe Rico Dowdle. I would have liked, I think Rico Dowdle is better than Isaiah Pacheco, but in terms of getting youth, hard runner to play alongside Jahmyr Gibbs, give him a couple touches outside of it, I could see this being a very, very solid fit in Detroit for Isaiah Pacheco. I really, really like what I'm seeing there. And then if I continue on after Rico Dowdle, after the Rashawn Gary, was there anything else I'd like to report on? Oh, yeah, Cole Strange signing a 2-year deal with the Chargers, reuniting with Mike McDaniel. So it's always funny, by the way, to see these teams and the media put so much hate on the head coaches every single season. Like Mike McDaniel got all the hate in Miami. Brian Dable got all the hate for the Giants. And yet they go to be coordinators elsewhere, and all of a sudden these players want to follow their old coaches over. Just find it interesting that the media always wants to blame the coaches, but the players that know them personally love following their guys over. It's just a trend that I've seen a lot. They've loved following their guys over. Man, I'm so happy about Rico Dowdle. I can't lie. Oh, yeah, shout out to J.K. Dobbins. Wow, J.K. Dobbins making $10 million a year. $8 million fully guaranteed. So, sorry to all the R.J. Harvey dynasty owners that thought that R.J. Harvey was going to turn into something in the next couple of years, because J.K. Dobbins making $8 million a year is definitely telling me that J.K. is going to be their first down back. J.K. is going to stay as their first down back. He had a really, really good year last year for them. I think a lot of people forgot about that because of how he got injured and how the Broncos season ended in the playoffs. But yeah, led the Broncos in with 153 carries for 772 rushing yards. Had a couple of touchdowns in there too. He was pretty solid for the Chargers as well. back in 2025 when he signed there. But I'm happy to see J.K. Dobbins find a home. He's been one of those guys, even when he was in Baltimore, it was really just the injuries that were holding him back. I always thought he was a very consistent running back. He never really got too ahead of himself. He was a very smart runner. Love what I'm seeing out of J.K. Dobbins, man. Good for him for signing 2-year, $16 million. Kyle Allen reunites with the Bills. Braxton Jones is going to the Chicago Bears. I'm not going to report much on that. As if Houston's secondary couldn't get better, guys. Right now they got even more depth. Reed Blankenship, 3-year, $25 million deal, including $16.5 million. If you thought Houston's defense was scary last year, well, they literally just upgraded. They've only upgraded. I mean, I haven't seen anything bad coming out of Houston. Still got to figure out what they're doing with their offensive line, because that was the #1 problem in the playoffs last year. But between them trading for David Montgomery, signing Reed Blankenship, I think Houston looks at themselves as one of those teams that if C.J. Stroud can play a little bit better than he did last year and really take care of the ball, C.J. Stroud could be the Houston Texans could be a Super Bowl contending team in the AFC. I hate to say it, but that defense is better than almost any defense in the entire NFL. So really like that deal for Houston, bringing in a safety. Now we know, you Eagles fans, you guys don't have to worry about people confusing Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship anymore, because Reed is over in Houston. Kobe Bryant signing with the Chicago Bears on a 3-year, $40 million deal. Good for him getting the bank. We saw Devin Bush yesterday. Let's see if there's any other moves that I missed. The Devin Lloyd signing. Yes. Isaac Seumalo, my Pittsburgh Steeler, going to the Arizona Cardinals on a 3-year deal. I like Isaac Seumalo. He missed a little bit of time this year, but when he was there, he's very good. He is 32 years old, so he's a little on the older side. 3-year deal for a 32-year-old offensive lineman definitely isn't amazing. But if you're the Cardinals, you don't got much to lose, honestly. So the Raiders absolutely stacked up their defense. They signed Nakobe Dean. They signed another guy, I thought. Let me see if I can find his name. I don't remember exactly, but I know that the Raiders signed multiple linebackers yesterday. I saw a report that they signed 2 D linemen, 2 linebackers, 2 corners, Jalen Naylor, and Tyler Linderbaum. That's my free agency MVP team right there. I hate to say it, but my free agency MVP team this year has to be the Raiders. They've gone out, they've looked to protect Mendoza. They've helped their receiver room. They completely revamped that defense. Can't wait to see what the Raiders look like. But it is interesting to see the Raiders going all out this offseason. Even though they have so much money, I just look at that division between the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos and think to myself, I don't know if there's anything the Raiders could have done this offseason to make themselves better than any of those 3 teams heading into next year. So because of that, it's like, I don't know how much I believe in the Raiders to still get a 10-win season or even make a playoff push. But at the end of the day, they're making the moves to try and win now. They believe in Mendoza. They want to get him the surrounding pieces to develop correctly. And I think it does start on the defensive side of the ball, making sure that, Mendoza doesn't have to be out there trying to win you the game with 40 passes. You got to have a good defense out there. And that's kind of what the Raiders are building. Panthers absolutely are stacking up their defense as well. Not only did they sign Devin Lloyd to a 3-year, $45 million deal, which is a great pickup. He was one of the best, if not the best, middle linebacker available in free agency this season. Coming from Jacksonville, who we know is very defensive-minded. He is so solid. Run-stop win rate ranked 58th percentile, but the real reason he's getting paid is because of splash plays. 5 interceptions, 7 passes defended, 16 pressures, most by an off-ball linebacker, 1.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for loss. He can do it all. I kind of think we saw the Panthers last season, specifically come playoff time against the Rams, not really have that true guy in the middle of the field that they believed in to run their defense, and Devin Lloyd is there. And they also signed Jalen Phillips to $120 million. Not guaranteed. I think it's 80 guaranteed, 120 in incentives. They really stacked their linebacker core, their edge rushers. I really believe in what Carolina did. The biggest question is Bryce Young going to be able to really keep that offense going the way that it was this year, especially if they don't have, Rico Dowdle, that now their run game got worse. You can make the argument that their receiving game is going to get much better because Jalen Coker will play a full season and another season with Ted McMillan. But at the same time, Carolina trying to make that playoff push with the Saints making a lot of moves, the Falcons picking up Tua Tagovailoa, the Buccaneers, obviously the biggest thing was that they let Mike Evans walk, but they picked up Kenneth Gainwell. They made a couple moves defensively, and now the Panthers trying to bolster that defense, believing in their offense to continue on at the end of the last season, but their defense to step up. Saints sign a guard, David Edwards. Saints looking to protect Travis Etienne, so good for them. And obviously, Tyler Shuck. And a big one, the Seahawks re-signed wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. I thought Rashid Shaheed was going to get $20 million a year. I cannot lie. I see that he was 3 years, 51, which means it's $17 million a year. It's $17 million a year with incentives. I believe it's only like 14 a year without incentives. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked to see that they brought him back and were able to afford him in return. I really thought Rashid Shaheed was going to go to a spot like Cleveland for $21 million a year. But no, the Seahawks found a way to retain him. I thought it was funny, though, that Seahawks fans were saying, like, the Seahawks chose to not re-sign Kenneth Walker for 15, but chose to re-sign Rashid Shaheed for 17. Let's not forget that Kenneth Walker was going to be the third highest paid. The Kenneth Walker currently right now is the third highest paid running back in all of football. And Rashid Shaheed is like, what, the 22nd ranked receiver in all of football, maybe? And Rashid Shaheed does it all. I mean, we saw after they made the trade, he does special teams. He was a deep threat. He did those end arounds. He kind of runs the ball a little bit. Rashid Shaheed's one of those guys that I'll be walking away with in at the end of a lot of my fantasy football drafts next year, just because he's so versatile. He's always a big play guy. I really could see him being utilized a lot more in this offense, specifically in the run game. Very, very happy about Rashid Shaheed returning to the Seattle Seahawks. But I can't lie, I think I reported on all of the other main signings that we see here. I think we're going to get a couple other weird ones. But at least all the main ones I think we have already talked about here. Yeah, I'm looking through all these ones we've already talked about. Odafe Owe, I guess, signing to the Commanders, 4 years, $100 million coming from the Chargers. We knew the Commanders were going to be in the market for an edge rusher. Clearly, they didn't want to pay Trey Hendrickson the $30 to $40 million he feels like he's worth, so just under $25 million for Odafe Owe. I do like it. If I'm the Commanders. I'd still like to see them spend a little bit more on defense, get a little younger, but not a bad pickup. Bengals with Boye Mafe, with Trey Hendrickson and Joseph Asai out the door. They really needed some pass rush. Boye Mafe coming off a Super Bowl. I mean, the Bengals literally can't get worse defensively. So there you go. Boye Mafe coming over to play big minutes for them. But I guess I could talk a little bit more about the Niners signing Mike Evans. 32 years old, coming off that injury-sorting year, which was the first year he did not have an 1,000-yard season. Mike Evans is now teaming up with Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, and all their other remaining 49ers guys in a 3-year deal. I do like it. At the end of the day, I think if Mike Evans can stay on the field, which is the biggest if with all things 49ers related, especially with that energy thing they have next to their practice facility. I can't wait to see Mike Evans. I've seen so many memes of like people getting like a bone of brisket and being like Mike Evans hamstring after he spends 2 days next to that energy field, and it's like, you know, the brisket falling right off the bone. But as long as he's not injured, which is the big thing, I think Mike Evans is going to be the perfect fit for the 49ers. They kind of needed that red zone threat alongside McCaffrey. Kittle's going to be missing a lot of time next year. They really, really needed some red zone threat. He's such a big body receiver. He's such a veteran guy. The Niners have had a lot of trouble with even just like progressing their young guys, their young receivers. They've taken multiple first-round guys in recent memory, and not a lot of them have turned out to be good outside of one season of production. Jawan Jennings is a free agent, so they basically replaced Jawan Jennings with Mike Evans. I think that is an upgrade, but I will say if Mike Evans can't stay healthy, which no one on the Niners can, we might look back on this in a couple of years and think, it's a bad way for Mike Evans to finish his career. Raiders signed Kwity Paye. Congrats to Kwity Paye for, joining Malcolm Koonce and Tyree Wilson, trying to get to the opposing quarterback. Once again, if you're going to trade Max Cosby for basically Tyler Linderbaum and 2 first-round picks, Kwity Paye, Tyree Wilson, and Malcolm Koonce is a great developing defensive line that I think the Raiders, I don't hate it. I see that they gave him a D+. Let's see what they said. I'm guessing Pay status as a first-round pick probably contributed to the contract, even if it shouldn't have. Pay ranked last in pass rush win rate amongst all qualifiers at edge at just 4.5%. Isn't that crazy? You could be the worst, literally the worst player in the NFL at your job, and you can sign a 3-year, $16 million a year to go to live in Las Vegas. Good for you, man. I am jealous of some of these NFL players, but there you go. There's all the main signings from this past free agency, I guess, from the past 24 hours. Shout out to Isaiah Pacheco for signing to the Detroit Lions live on stream. But that's going to do it for all the conversations that we've at least had recently. If any news come out, you guys will see more videos on it. But just wanted to do a quick recap on my favorite signings and other signings that I didn't really understand. And just do a little bit of NFL free agency talk.